Okay, we're live. Today I'm with Ian Conway for a debate and discussion around politics and specifically capitalism. Ian was someone who watched the debate I had with Humane Mind recently and essentially saw a few contentious points on both of us, but wanted to raise them to me. I'm guessing he'll speak to Humane Mind if possible as well.
Yeah, I'll try.
But for now, it's me and him. So take it away, Ian. Ian, what did you want to say?
Okay. My main contention with like specifically communism is I think that whenever you create a system of basically when you create a system where of human interaction, it's basically an engineering problem. So you have people and they have natures and personalities, and you have to create a function of society where those natures actually exist. So when you look at communism and you look at, like, let's say, the distribution problem of people, first off, distribution is actually a really complicated problem in general. So let's take, for example, you have, like, I don't like whenever whenever I talk to communists, there's either three ways. One, they create a gigantic government, and there's elected officials, and then the elected officials decide where resources go and how they're allocated and who gets capital. The other one is people self-create communes, and within the commune, there's decisions made, right? And and that's the one I specifically want to use as an example. So let's say 100 people create a commune in a group. Within that group, there's, let's say, 100 people. So
Hmm.
100 people, each of them has different skills, and some of them will have more skills than others. So the people with more skills and more, basically, essentially power, have more bargaining power. So over time, so let's say you create a company selling software is a good example. So software is a great example. Let's say you create a software thing creating shoes. So you have three engineers that actually know how to create the machines, repair the machines, and do this. Over time, they're going to have more bargaining power and have the ability to get more pay than other people. And anytime that there's a bargaining position where over wages, resources, or anything else, they're going to get the advantage because the other people know they're rational, that they know that they lose if the engineer leaves or if the engineer doesn't get what he wants, because the engineer is far more valuable than he is. And my problem with communism isn't the idea. My problem with communism is that if you have a communistic system where you're trying to do distribution, one, the distribution is expensive because you have to figure out how to distribute, what's fair, what's not fair, and then you have to make sure that people constantly, like, normal behavior can't undermine what you're trying to create. That's like my main problem with communism is it's just like it feels like it will fail immediately. Like
So you're saying like almost like not quite exactly, but the human nature sort of like humanity's inherent flaws will
yeah, well, it's not
undermine.
even the inherent flaws. It's inherent differences between people. Like if I'm like a real ornery son of a bitch, and I cause you've met ornery sons of bitches, and they're like they will not take no for an answer. It's their way or the highway. They're not going to compromise with you. And if they have skills, it's more advantageous for the group to submit to them than for the group to shun him, because he's going to have something more valuable than they have in some cases. If he's a smart guy who knows how to build stuff and knows how to make everyone more efficient. So in the short term or the long term, depends on the situation, giving him what he wants is more advantageous for the entire group. Just give him some more money, he'll be happy. Everyone here is more efficient. We make more money. All of us are better off because we gave him more money.
Um,
And those kind of situations are going to happen a lot. Those situations happen all the time already. And I think communism can't happen because it will destroy itself. Because, let's be frank here, people there are differences in ability, and people will use those differences to bargain.
I mean, you said a lot there, and I mean I can see where you're coming from with some of the stuff, but I disagree with a fair amount of what you said. Firstly, the idea that people are inherently sort of going to bargain if they feel as though they're worth more to the society is one that's sort of born out of the fact we've grown up in and lived around an environment completely forged of capitalism, and the idea that you need to better yourself to the person next to you to be in a better position, because obviously profit is the primary function of capitalism.
I don't buy the profit thing.
If you'd let me
Okay.
conclude. No problem. It's just I know you said a lot and I wanted to sort of cover all of it, and then perhaps we can focus on like a little bit once we've both said some stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
No worries. Brilliant. So yeah, the idea of us sort of been forged in an environment of profit and capitalism and consumerism has led to one where we're sort of unable to envision ourselves doing anything if it doesn't bet ourselves to those around us. So, for instance, you said, oh, the person with the software skills will be in a position where they can sort of just manipulate and control the commune to the point where they're sort of in the power position. And yeah, maybe under capitalism that would happen because, or in a capitalist situation, yeah, the person with the position of power is going to essentially distort the situation so that they have the ability to coerce things. But in a system in which everyone has the equal power of their fellow worker, where essentially like you don't have just this hierarchical system where one form of labor or value is positioned at the top. You're not going to see the ability for a conniving sort of profiteering person to say, well, I'm most important here. There's more than one form of success and value, and to say that the person who's good at computers can just like ride out everyone else and become more powerful is one that we sort of it's sort of natural for us to say because we're so used to living in a computerized and capitalist sort of worldview. And to then to say, oh well, some people are more valuable than others. I would say that that's not necessarily true. I mean, yeah, fine. Maybe there's going to be someone who's better at computers than like everyone else, but that's not the only form of value. And indeed, in a sort of realistic society that would be a reflection of communism or using far left ideologies, everyone's abilities and values are taken into consideration and taken into account. And yeah, in response to that, people will say, oh, well, not everyone's got working capabilities, not everyone's good at this. And no one's saying that's not true. No one's saying, oh, everyone's going to be amazing at this one thing. But everyone has value. And even if someone doesn't have value in the sense of like working with computers or being physically able, they are still a valued part of society. Every worker is equal and everyone is a key part. And this idea that someone needs to be either like working and producing money to be valuable is one again forged under capitalism. So the idea that like one person can sort of craft
the problem with that is you're conflating economic value with human value. They're different things. We have different value structures. So there's some like let's take about like unpaid work. Like that happens in our society all the time. Mothers, people who go to daycares and spend their time. It's valuable work, but it isn't paid. See, the thing that I'm specifically talking about economic value. I'm not talking like because my problem is you can actually map out who is actually economically superior. It's a fact. You can point to somebody. You can wait. You can point to somebody. You can look at a company. Person joins. That company becomes more successful, and everyone in the entire company produces more. Not just him. He makes everyone else better, which is a good thing, right? I'm talking specifically about economic value.
But
I'm not talking about your worth as a human being. That isn't tied to your economic value. You can be a person who produces tons and tons of wonderful, beautiful things, but still be a terrible human being. That's not what I'm getting at. There are differences within economic production of people. It happens. It's measurable. It exists. And this isn't a product of capitalist ideas. This is a product of like the thing is like literally Marx just says each according to their ability, each according to their need. That determines that people have different abilities. And what I'm saying is that those abilities, the difference in abilities and the difference in temperament and personality will constantly undermine any position, because think about it rationally. If you have you have 100 people come into a room, that programmer knows that he's better than you, knows that everyone else is going to rely on him to produce software that makes all of their lives easier. He knows this. He's aware of this. It doesn't matter if it's capitalist system. It doesn't matter if it's communist. It doesn't matter. The system that you live under doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what system that you're under, because I'm specifically like just because you have a for-profit mentality doesn't mean that somebody won't be more valuable than another person in a situation.
But again, this pretends that software is the only sort of relevant.
I'm not. I'm saying that software enables the other 99 people in there to work 30 times faster.
And that's the only thing that improves society, not anything else. There's no other factors that help the software developer.
Why does that? Why? But one of them is more economically important than the other one.
But that's not necessarily true, is it?
Because no, that is. But you can measure it. You can measure. So,
for instance,
you can literally measure a company's success when you add certain people.
Well, again, this ignores a lot of what goes on in the capitalist process and the processes of the world. So, for instance, let's say you take an employee at Apple, like the person who's making all these new ideas and making everyone else more successful. To measure their value, you're ignoring the fact that for any of this to be even possible, you need workers in the other part of the world. But you can't just ignore that.
That doesn't matter.
Sort of the whole point.
I'm not saying that they're not valuable. I'm saying that they are less valuable.
Well, they're not, because without them, none of it would have happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I never denied that. So, that's not my point. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're not if they're less valuable. Because they're less valuable to the group, that means they have less bargaining power, and then less bargaining power over time. Because you see, if one okay, like you can use like fast food joints as a great example. If a fast food guy loses a worker, it's not a big deal. Nobody cares if they lose a worker that they can train in 60 days. Like you can reasonably look at that and be like, no, and that's why they literally have a model where they hire people during the summer when business is high, and then they get rid of people during the winter, because they know that those people are not as valuable as other groups. So they'll hold on to managers because managers are more valuable. But they won't hold on to crew people because crew people aren't worth the trouble. And the thing is, in your communistic system, that those principles still apply, because people are self-interested. If you have think about it like this: if you have a commune of 100 people, and one guy is not pulling his weight, and he's making everyone else unhappy, do you think that because you're in a communistic system that people aren't going to hate him, that he isn't going to be an outcast, that he isn't going to be a pariah? People are going to hate him. It's even going to be worse because now everyone's getting paid the same, and now they're going to hate him even more, because before they could just get rid of him and then he'd have to get a new job, but now they're stuck with him.
I completely disagree with what you're saying here. Going back to what you were saying about this person's more valuable, this manager's more valuable. The sort of the value they have is still dependent on the workers beneath them. You're saying, these it doesn't matter that
I don't deny that.
Could I finish what I'm saying, please? It doesn't matter that people it's easier to you can argue, it's easier to fry chips than it is to manage an entire McDonald's, but it doesn't change the fact that the workers beneath the manager supposedly did the labor that makes all of it possible. Just like for the software developer to make his better ideas grow in a field, they still need the work of everyone who came before him to get the computer into America in the first place. And thus, you can't really say, this person's more valuable, so they deserve to be paid more, when their wage is still dependent and their value is still dependent on those who came before him. And to come on to what you're saying further, you're saying, if these people see that this guy has got the same amount of wealth as this person, but he's not doing anything, so it's not going to be good. Well, I would disagree again because why should profit be the only motive to work? It's not.
I'm not saying
But,
profit isn't
no,
the
but
motive. I'm
because you're
saying that
saying
people.
that you are because you're
Okay,
saying
no, no,
that
no, 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 no.
if you'd let me respond to the point.
You're conflating with profit with.
Well,
Okay, think about it like this: if you
well, if
produce
you'd let me
stuff, if you produce stuff,
if you'd let me finish what I was saying, then you can respond because if I'm right. So if you see that your people like in capitalism, yeah, like profit is the incentive because
I'm not talking about profit. That's not
well, you
profit.
did because you said that,
No, 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 no.
I just said, can I
Think about it like
finish?
this: you have 100
No,
people,
because
and they're all paid. You
I
have 100
can't.
people, and they're all paid the
I'll
same.
use if just because you're speaking fast doesn't mean it's going to get out any more easy.
If you have 100 people, they're all paid the same. If somebody isn't doing well, then other people are going to be ornery because you're not.
I can't hear what you're saying because you're trying to speak over me. Wait for me to finish, and then you can speak. Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Since I'm not mentioning profit, and you're straw manning me.
I'm not.
Since I didn't mention profit once.
At the end of that, you said, "Oh, well, these people are going to see this person not contributing, they're being paid the same." Now, that is the idea that you should be paid or you should be given more wealth depending on what you do. And you're arguing that wealth is the incentive and the idea that making more money. Well,
no.
What did you say then?
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what I heard.
No. Because I said you're saying profit. I'm saying that the total amount that you produce in value. So let's say you have a collective of 100 people, right? Let's say you somehow make 100. Let's say you make $1 million a year because you produce said good. I'm specifically talking about communes, by the way. Like these are people that agreed to get together and produce something, and they're all going to be paid the same, right? And they exchange it with other communes, right? So you have this commune, right? And everyone is paid the same in the commune. So if the entire commune is less efficient because there's a person there, they're not going to like him because that means they get paid less. Because there's more people and that person isn't as efficient. Right? Because I'm not talking you're conflating profit like individual profit with the ability for everyone to have more. See, because everyone in that place is sharing the profit, is sharing the excess wealth, essentially, that they produce, because they're producing excess wealth that they get from selling whatever they're selling. That means if somebody in there isn't producing that wealth, they're getting something, and the other people are going to be resentful that they're getting something, and they're not working as hard. I'm not arguing that it's not for profit. I'm arguing that people are selfish, and they'll see that. I'm talking normal people. Like people get angry when somebody's lazy. People get angry when people call off for work. They legitimately get mad. It happens in the real world. Why would that go away when you're in a non-for-profit system? Because the amount of money the amount of actual things that you're able to accrue for your collective will be hindered by this person. Because
again,
like how will it not be hindered by this person? I just showed that if you had to distribute evenly, and this person is less successful, how will it not hurt them?
I mean, you finished?
Yeah, but how will it not hurt? How will it not hurt the commune?
I mean, I would argue this example is somewhat flawed because it doesn't really represent.
If you make it bigger, it gets. If you make the system bigger or smaller.
You're saying, oh, well, people don't like it people don't like people being lazy, and lazy is a term that's pretty subjective under capitalism.
No. It's measurable. I hate to tell you, but businesses have figured out how to measure productivity.
If you're wanting me to reply, then I can't if I'm trying to say something, then and you cut me off like the second I start speaking. Anyway, laziness, as something that is subjective, no matter how many economic charts.
Well, I'm not even talking about laziness. I'm talking about incompetence. Like, what if they're just bad at their job?
Laziness. So, for instance, you can view someone who is suffering from mental illness as lazy because they don't, go into work every day. But that person is not deliberately avoiding work out of their own
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Well, no, but that's how laziness is measured under capitalism. Because we see plenty of times.
See,
Of course it is. Workers
yes,
aren't
it's
able
called.
to.
That's why we have social programs. That's
Well,
why we
they
have
don't.
that's why we have a
That's
democratic
not.
government that takes taxes from corporations that then provides services, and then there's a democratic process about how much of how much should be taxed and how much we should help.
Yes, and those programs are firstly not very well funded. Secondly, unfair, and thirdly,
Yes, they are. How much money does your country spend as a per capita
they aren't
on those
properly
programs?
funded. And they ignore the fact that Labour.
How much? What percentage?
Sorry?
What percentage does the UK spend on social programs to help people?
Not enough. I don't know the exact percentage.
Like,
I don't
how much?
know the percentage. But let me finish what I was saying.
So you're going to say
let
that
me finish what I was saying.
when you don't know
let me
the percentage. One second. You
Let
don't know the percentage that you said you can say something isn't enough,
but
you don't know
finish
how much.
what I'm saying, please, Ian. What's the point of asking me something if you don't want me to like say what I'm trying to say?
If you're going to say a vagary, then I don't really care.
A vagary. You didn't.
Yeah, because
I don't know what the exact figure of my country's like.
So how would you know if it should go up or down if you don't know the actual amount?
What I'm saying, please, Ian. What I was saying was that there should not all profit, all wealth inequality. Like it doesn't matter how much value someone has. Their labor, their money came from profiting off someone else's labor, and it doesn't matter how you want to.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. I can prove you're wrong there. It's easy.
I don't think. No, you can't prove me wrong.
Oh, it's really fucking easy.
Right.
What was the average lifespan in the 1800s?
The average, I don't know, like not very long, I presume. 40,
No. Actually, answer the question. Give me a guess.
I don't know the exact, like 40s.
No. It's an important point. Give me a guess.
40s or 50s, flipping it.
39.6. The average person lived to 39.6.
In which countries? Well, globally, or
all of them globally? It was shit. Every country. Even this is actually in America, by the way. But one of the most successful countries in the time in the 1800s. Okay, so I want to explain something to you about the quality of life of what before capitalism, before the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so if you look at America in the 1820s, this is during slavery. The average person made less than $1 a day. Actually, at the turn of the century, in the 1900s, the average person in America made $1 a day in today's money. That's accounting for our inflation. In today's money, they made $1 a day. So the idea, the concept that only the rich benefited from capitalism is first off false. It's just false.
No,
it's false.
No, it's not.
We can. Oh, really? How are you doing? When's the last time you starved? No. Seriously. Actual question. When's the last time you starved?
That is not the.
When's the last time you starved?
That's not the accurate measure of
whether
capitalism. But no, it's not. So you think that the only way someone can suffer?
Industrial Revolution. The average 40% of us died before we were 5. 40% of us died before we were 5.
The fact that birth mortality rates and mortality.
The fact that we were massively efficient.
You can't attribute that to capitalism at all.
Why can't I?
Because it's not. Capitalism is simply the means of like profiting off people's labor and profiting off commodities. And the idea that this has, if you let me finish, Ian, I'm answering your flipping point. Like, if you want me to like even say
answer the point then.
Oh, boy, because I've tried quite a few times and you keep interrupting me. So let me finish and then you can speak, yeah? Comprende?
Okay, I'm waiting.
Brilliant. Now, the idea that capitalism is responsible for the improvement of the quality of life across the globe is a complete lie. Capitalists and the idea of profiting off people's like labor is worker action, essentially. Capitalism put people in chains and essentially saw them as slaves. We saw capitalists in the 1800s argue that black people being slaves was better.
Wait. I have a question. What country was more industrialized, the North or the South? I'm actually no. It's a reply to this because it's a false
No,
dichotomy.
it's not replying. It's
Was the North
interrupting.
or the South more industrialized?
Ian, you said, "Oh yeah, I'm waiting," and then when I'm trying to speak to you, you just keep interrupting.
Because you made a okay.
No,
let's,
you
let's,
gotta
let's no. I'm going to argue that because you made a point, and I'm going to have to break your thing point.
I've muted you, Ian. You can reply once I've finished. Yeah. How do you unmute you? Hold on a second. Let me try and unmute you. Oops. Sorry, I've never done this before, actually. Is that better? There we go. Right. You speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. No, I can hear you now. Now, let me finish what I'm saying, please.
Okay.
And then you can speak and make it so that you're responding to what I'm saying instead of just like saying
Okay.
responding to something you were saying like 10 minutes ago. Now, in America, capitalists and the idea that profiting on people's having people as like commodities was at the core conceit behind what's it called? Capitalism. So slavery was used as a means of making more profit out of your goods. Hence, one of the main arguments for slavery was that it was a beneficial tool of capitalism. And then it took the ideas of work solidarity and stuff and like left reform to get people seeing that no, workers deserve certain rights and certain standards of health. So no, it wasn't capitalism that raised the quality of life across the West. It was, in fact, worker solidarity. Like you look,
okay.
I haven't quite finished yet.
I want to reply to that.
Well, yeah, you can reply at the end. And take some notes or something if you want to like come back to something.
Because but the thing is, I want to stop.
What I just said. I said
I have a reply.
Yes,
it's really simple.
At the end.
Reply
at the end. Reply at the end, Ian. You got to understand that, like, if you've said something and I'm replying to you, then it takes time.
Slavery in the North stopped before slavery.
Ian, you can hear me. I'm telling you, if you like keep on, there's no debate if you're just gonna yell over me every single time. Like replies take time, and if you say a lot, I've got to reply to a lot. I'm gonna let you speak. I'm not gonna just say no, you're done. Like, but if you keep interrupting, then there's gonna be like no debate, is there? It's gonna be you shouting over me. Like, you know, if you're saying, "Oh, I want a quick response," but you know, your response to me took like ages. So you need to let me speak. Now, let's try and get this working again. Right. Can you speak now?
Yes.
Now, please, for the last time, because I'm getting a little bit annoyed, to be honest, let me finish what I'm saying, and then you can say
Dude,
stuff.
Say it. Holy fuck.
I had to. I
Just say it.
I had to stop saying what I was saying because you seem to keep interrupting. Yeah. So let me finish, and maybe like write down stuff if you've got a few things you want to say.
If you're talking about the unionization of the workers to fight for their rights.
No, let me. You're just interrupting me now.
Just fucking say it. You've been fucking talking about how I keep interrupting you for 3 minutes. So just say it. Go to the point. Go to the point.
I wouldn't have to keep talking.
Go to the point.
You stopped interrupting. Yeah?
Go to the point.
No, I'd like you to understand. Yeah.
Yes, I shouldn't interrupt you now. Get to the point.
No, so you're going to interrupt me again? Are you going to interrupt me again?
Get to the point.
No, I'm asking you.
I'm not going to interrupt you if you get to the point.
So you're agreeing you're not going to interrupt me, yeah?
I'm not going to interrupt you.
Brilliant. And if you interrupt me again, I'm going to end this because there's no point just continuously having me interrupt. Yeah?
Please, Lord.
Right. So, what was I saying? Capitalism has never cared about the rights of and well-being of workers. It's been left-wing reforms to capitalism that has brought about the reforms that have improved the quality of life. So, for instance, you look at the 1930s and the Great Depression and stuff, where workers, because of the right-wing capitalist ideas and organization of the economy, society collapsed. And we've obviously seen that quite a few times happen as capitalism has sort of inevitably failed.
Citation
and
needed?
left-wing amendments to capitalism brought about more rights for workers. So you see many of these sort of existing left-wing reforms to America were made in the 30s, and they've been like some of the only things that's kept American workers in any sort of decent standing. And indeed, with sort of neoliberalism and globalization, capitalism has been able to enforce what is essentially slavery on other parts of the world. So, for instance, in Southeast Asia, you've seen across the 80s and 90s and even up to today, capitalist practices just enforced on workers with no sort of rights to strike or no real access to other jobs. And essentially, workers have been paid next to nothing, whilst the people in the West profit off their extremely exploited labor. So this idea that Western capitalism has raised like the rights of people and the quality of life is a complete sham, and one that ignores the actual efforts of those who amended society and tried to reform society in entirety. So I think it's quite insulting to say people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. I haven't quite finished yet, Ian.
Oh God, you've talked for 5 minutes.
Like you did earlier. So let me finish. I was nearly done. I was going to say, so it's quite insulting to suggest that people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all these people who fought for rights of various people across time were doing so because of capitalism, and their improvement of workers' conditions was because of capitalism. Now you can speak, Ian.
Okay, cool. The only reason that you could even fight for worker improvement is because of the massive productivity inspired by capitalism. And I will use several examples of this. So let's take slavery, for example. Where was slavery first gotten rid of?
Denmark.
In the West. It was in the West. And when did slavery first start getting de-implemented from and across the world? What was the primary thing that happened? Industrialization. Because I legitimately don't think people are good. Okay, I don't think people have this amazing moral, ethical thing. The only reason that we got rid of slavery is because we could afford to. It sounds weird. It sounds fucked up. But we had 10,000 years of slavery. 10,000 years of slavery. In the last 100, we haven't, in any reasonable sense. Like actual slavery. Why do you think that the massive productivity of people, the massive productivity, isn't the reason why we can afford to give rights? Because if you think about it in a realistic sense, the only reason that you can have rights, the only reason that you can have privileges and ability is because of the massive amounts of work that the people around you do in an efficient manner. Okay, you are allowed to have the freedom of speech simply because you can afford to have the freedom of speech, because we can hire a court to protect you to have a freedom of speech, because we are efficient enough at producing food, electricity, internet, every single thing that you take for granted. All of that allows you to be extended rights. The massive productivity of people is the reason why rights exist in the first place, because we couldn't afford to give you the rights. Like think about it like this: you have like 100 people, and they're barely and like before the 1800s when we mainly just produced food, when 80% of us were farmers. Okay, do you think the concept of getting rid of slavery existed when 80% of us were tied to the farm? You talk about slavery in like Southeast Asia and everything, but essentially everyone was slave to the farm. Before, if you didn't till the farm, if you didn't produce food, if you had a bad season, you perished. You died. That's what happened. So like the idea of inalienable rights was like the least of our concerns. We had to fucking survive. We extend morals where we can afford them. We can extend rights where we can afford them. And the massive productivity gained in the 1800s due to people who have self-interest for profit, doing more with less, essentially, because now instead of having 80% of us produce all the food, we have like 2% or less produce all the food. So that means we can now have lawyers. We can now have lawyers defend your rights. We can now have people fight for things. Martin Luther King wouldn't have even had the chance, even if we got rid of actual slavery, wouldn't have even had the chance to go on like rights and speeches and all that stuff if he had to fucking go farm and to survive. The massive productivity gained after the Industrial Revolution, and the productivity that everyone gains, allows you to be more free, allows everyone to be more free. So, like, let's take your Southeast Asia example. Southeast Asia has had the biggest growth, economic growth, in the last 50 years. China is doing better now than it ever has been. Like, God, in 10 years, they've tripled their wages. The last 10 years, they have tripled their wages. Imagine you made like 20,000 a year, and now you make 60,000 a year. That's what happened to these guys just in the last 10 years. And before that, there were still advancements. The quality of life of people in these places that you are saying are being subjected to capitalism is a minute portion. And when you produce value, when these people are productive and produce lots of value and produce stuff that people want to buy, people want to sell and things, then you are able to extend rights to these people. That's why Chinese are getting more rights. That's why Taiwan is getting more rights. That's why Singapore is getting more rights. India's slightly behind them, but India's going to get there in time. And China right now is investing billions of dollars into Africa because they think Africa is going to be the next economic hotspot. The idea that just because somebody's downtrodden, because let's be real here, everyone used to be downtrodden. Everyone used to suffer. The default mode of being for people was you fucking died before you were 5 and you fucking suffered and barely survived the entire way through for like 90% of people. Right? Life sucked before the Industrial Revolution and technology, right? Life sucked. And if the idea that you're able to produce your own goods, like let's say take your factory example of a limited jobs. Before that, all you had was a farm. You didn't even have choices. Like the concept that these capitalists are exploiting them is just inane. They want to work at the factories. Like, would they choose to come to America if they could and if they could afford it? Yeah, of course they would. But they can't, so they're going to do well with what they could, and they're going to improve the lives over time. People are going to catch up to America and the West. Their lives are going to be better. And not every fucking group is going to, not every country, not every society is going to improve at the same rate, right? Not everyone's going to do it. Not everyone's going to get there at the same time. America was there first. America and the West was there first. Is because we were industrialized first, right? So, let's take Africa. Now, why is Africa doing really bad? Like, comparative to other countries. One, they actually have a homogenization problem. So if you look at like a country like Chad, for example, Chad I think has like 70 plus languages, and like they have other problems to deal with, so that they can cooperate and like create strong economies and work together in reasonable ways to produce stuff. They have other problems. The Middle East, do people forget about the success story of the Middle East? Like, the world is getting better, like a lot better, like so much better, and it's working extremely fast. Like think about it like this: it took America 100 years to turn from we started being industrialized in the 1860s, and it took us to about 1940 to 1960 to like get the quality of life that we have reasonably near today. Right? That took 100 years. It's 100 years of industry building. That's 100 years of policy changing. That's 100 years of businesses failing. That takes a long time. Like and you have to understand, China, they had their revolution in the 60s. They were all suffering. They abandoned the farm quota thing like 3 years in, and everyone started going for profit. And in 50 years, they're one of the strongest economic powers in the world, and everyone is living better than they ever have. The Chinese middle class is going to be the strongest economic force of the next 50 years. And the idea that we're exploiting them when their lives are like provably better, like it's better. Like if you look at their life expectancy, if you look at their health, if you look at access to medical care. So the idea that just because somebody doesn't have, somebody's taken is first off false, because it used to be that no one had, basically, other than like a tiny minutiae of people. just the idea that the productivity of people, which we are massively more productive. So if you look at the price of commodities, like per capita in the world, it's gone down. Some have gone up. Like energy has basically stayed the same. So energy is still expensive. But if you look at like food is cheaper than ever. That's why people aren't dying, because they can afford, because they aren't malnutritious. Like that's why there's a population boom. The population boom is because there's more resources to extend human life. Like the idea that we're exploiting people when their lives are getting better than they ever have been sounds so cynical to me. It's like how good does life have to be for you to say it's done? Not everyone's going to be the same, but we're all going to eventually, through time, because think about it like this: we've only been in like modern economic industrial times since after World War II, and like life has improved dramatically for like the whole world. I don't see what the problem is.
You finished?
Yes.
I'd like to point out that you had a go for me for speaking for 5 minutes.
Well, I actually kind of want you to interrupt me because that's what debate is.
No, it's not. What? Debate's about hearing out the other person speaking and then you reply. And it's not a good debate if you're just interrupting all the time.
I suppose. I'm used to people interrupting me. So.
Well, yeah. Perhaps you need to get around new people.
I guess.
Anyway, you said a lot, so I guess I'm going to have to sort of try and be concise with my replies. Let's see. There was some really naive stuff about the sort of way people have grown in terms of like life quality. But you can't attribute that to capitalism itself, when capitalism is actually the sort of thing that's making people's lives worse. Like you're saying, for instance, that industrialized people moving to factories and being in industrialized jobs made their lives better. But it's a choice between working in miserable, like terrible factories with like essentially really abysmal living standards because the employer doesn't care, or having no money at all and not being able to pay for anything and dying. And it's only the efforts of workers that gave workers like any sort of decent things. And saying that, you can eat and you can sleep in a bed, and not even that, to be honest.
That's a big deal, man. That's a big fucking deal. Well, most people didn't even have their own house. It's a big,
no,
you
but
think that's
not
trivial. You think that's trivial. That's how privileged you are.
Ian.
How do you think that's trivial?
Ian.
It blows my mind.
Ian. Let me continue. Now, the fact that you see, like, you can say it's trivial if you want, but if you think that people like who can eat somehow have privilege, even though they're like barely able to afford any food and barely able to have anything, when in fact their labor has been profited off by the person on top who did not contribute to the labor, who's not
prove that.
Oh, it's quite simple. If you
prove it, do you have mathematical models to prove it? Not a rhetorical thing. I want data. No. You can prove it.
Any situation where someone's labor is profited off is exploitation. And
how do you not exploit people?
Sorry?
How do you not exploit people?
Don't profit off them.
How? In your commune example, you have people exploiting other people.
No, it's not. Can we focus on what you were saying a second ago about it's not profit. But when it's if you see 10 workers making something for X, and then if they make a car and then the person sells that car and got all this he's got money that's generated by the workers, yet the workers do not receive that wealth. That's what capitalism is. It's profiting off people's labor, and it's unfair.
No. And you're assuming that, first off, the car would be sold. You're making several assumptions. You're making an assumption. You're assuming. Okay.
Capitalism.
No, you're okay.
Today.
Do you know what marketing is?
Oh no, we're focusing on what
marketing
I was saying. We're focusing on what I was saying in reply.
Yes, I'm focusing on what you're saying.
No, but you're
so if you produce a car, how do you know it's going to be sold?
Ian. now.
You wanna... Okay.
Well, it's a bit exasperating having to like calm you down from a rant and like
No,
interrupting
because
all
it's
the
not a
time.
rant, because you're making a presupposition.
No, but even if I was,
You're
no,
presuming the core would be sold.
Ian, even if I was, let me finish, and then you can speak. I thought all of what you said was total rubbish, but I let you continue speaking because I thought that it's a debate. You gotta let the other person speak. I didn't invite you on just to speak over you. And if you're on a debate, you shouldn't just speak over the other person because you disagree with it. Yeah, it's getting pretty frustrating having to constantly tell you that. And well, you can sigh if you want, but how do you think it's been like for someone else or people listening, just with me trying to speak and you going on every time you disagree with one little thing? Write it down.
It's a pretty big disagreement.
But it doesn't matter. Write it down if you'd want to speak about it and you think it's important, and then speak about it at the end. Like,
You're just gonna say like the same ideological spill that you've said like the last time when
I
was the
right,
debate.
and that wasn't what you said in your little like diatribe. Anyway, you're saying like, people can use like the internet and electricity and stuff, but you can't attribute them to capitalism. They're a product, they're something that was made, but that's not something that is inherent to capitalism, and certainly that's not something that capitalism has like benefited people with. So for instance, I mean, you wouldn't say, oh yeah, the feudal age is when the like wheel and basic farming was done, and like when we learned to sort of use our mouths to speak and stuff. So we should go back to that. You wouldn't say, oh, speaking is inherent to feudalism, and we have to give praise to that for speaking. No, of course not. So consequently, to say that we made electricity, we made the internet under a system of capitalism it's the same as capitalism is why we have all these things is completely wrong. If anything, and which is the actual case, we have all these things in spite of capitalism, because we have a situation where everyone has the opportunity to invest and innovate and create and just be themselves, instead of the situation we have at the moment where like a handful of people right at the top of society with the wealth of others, it's like the labor of others profiting off to generate their wealth, sitting at the top being able to innovate, and those on the bottom having no opportunity to do anything.
Sure.
All the stuff you said, coming back to what you were saying about Africa and the Middle East. Africa was ravaged by colonialism, by the Age of Empire, where European imperialists ruined the entire continent essentially for the sake of their own profit, where indigenous peoples were devastated. You mentioned, Chad is it's not very homogeneous. So that doesn't matter. Like the fact that Chad has lots of different languages and people doesn't mean that it's just unprofitable. No, it just means that it's a different way of life. And the fact that somehow our Western capitalism is superior, when in fact it's pretty abysmal, isn't the case at all. The Middle East, you're saying that it's one of the I think you said it was like really booming and stuff.
It's a success story. Doing much better
well, it's
than
not a success story, is it? It's an example of another case of where European and American colonialism and imperialism has ruined nations. Like look at Iran. Iran was moving far.
Iran is doing amazing.
Move left wing, and then you look at they were not following capitalism. They were nationalizing more stuff, putting more stuff into public ownership. Then all of a sudden, US and UK forces went down, overthrew the system there, and capitalized stuff. The same can be said in many South American countries.
Doing amazing.
Well,
they're doing one of the best countries in the Middle East.
I haven't quite finished, so come back to that in a second. Okay. In South America, for instance, you look at Chile. Chile was another country that was helping its people.
Chile's doing amazing. Holy fuck,
Chile. Hold on, no, let me finish. Chile was a nation that was moving more and more left wing, and then the US saw this. They realized, our profits are going to go down, so they intervened. They backed a fascist coup by Augusto Pinochet, killed the existing government, and put in capitalism. And subsequently, their GDP went up. They had more money. They made profit out of stuff, but at the expense of democracy and at the expense of their workers improving. And to say, just as a general point, to say that the lives of workers improved because of capitalism is completely false, because it was the changes and amendments to capitalism made by the left that caused the lives of workers to improve. And indeed, as workers' rights and sort of wealth inequality has gone up, and wealth on top has gone up, yeah, the world's
wealth
wealthier.
is actually decreasing.
Oh, it's not though, is it? Because it's increasing in the US.
No, you can look up the Gini. Do you know what Gini is? Do you know what a Gini
coefficient
is?
Wealth inequality is.
You know what Gini coefficient is?
I can't remember what that.
Okay, Gini coefficient
is,
goes from
if you
0
let
to
me
1.
speak about it in a second, Ian.
You just made a fucking lie.
No, it's not a lie.
You can measure the amount of inequality in the world. It's a measurable
thing. In the
thing.
West, it's going up. In my country.
In the West, but everywhere else, it's getting better.
Which is a result of not capitalism at all. It's a result of like worker movements. But even so, capitalism is causing like you see wealth on top. Like for instance, the GDP in the UK went up, which you could argue, oh, people have more money. But no, it's people on the top who are gaining more money, whilst the public and workers at large are losing money and are getting poorer.
About the first world.
The
first world is fine.
It's not fine.
Yes, it is. Holy fuck! I haven't starved.
So because you haven't starved, that's a very low bar.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry that my privilege of like realizing that my lights will work and I haven't fucking starved or been hungry in years.
I think it's disgraceful to say that, oh, if you're not starving, it's fine. Like, people don't starve to be suffering, and also in the West, people do starve.
Where? What number?
I don't know the exact number.
You make claims, but you don't know the data. It's important. If you are going to have a reasonable argument, you have to know the data.
My arguments are reasonable and fine.
Then why don't you know the okay, 500,000 people in the U.S. last year. The problem is that statistic was made.
Hear what you said.
Okay, 500,000 people in the U.S. last year went hungry, right? But the problem with that statistic, like they went hungry.
No, literally. Where did you get the statistic from?
Can't remember. It's been a while.
Oh, well, so it's okay for you to forget where your sources came from. But,
yeah, actually it is, because I can't reasonably remember all of them. But at least I know.
So hold on. No, you said to me, oh, you must have a source.
You don't have a source for anything you say.
What? Your source is from nowhere.
Okay.
Your source
I'm going to ask
you,
how do you determine if a country is successful?
Ian, how can you give me a number when you said, oh, yeah, I can't remember where it's from, but I'm
okay,
not
let me Google it. Let me Google it.
Well, if we're just using Google, then what's the point of you saying, oh, well, you can't just say these things? Like,
because at least I have a source, and I'm not saying a vague statement that applies to nothing.
No, well,
let me say, when you say wealth inequality is increasing in the world,
it's not like a proper thing where we're going to have all these citations. If you want,
why wouldn't you have this shit on fucking record if that's your main argument?
Well,
if your argument is that the world is worse, why wouldn't you fucking have data to prove that the world is worse?
Well, I don't carry data into these sort of things.
Why wouldn't you have data? Data is fucking counting. That's how you know you're not bullshitting yourself.
Ian, listen to yourself. Like, you're this irate guy sort of yelling down the mic and getting angry.
Your arguments
Ian,
don't have data.
Ian, I don't bring data and these specific examples to this, because it's not like it's some peer-reviewed university.
Why wouldn't you want to peer-review your shit?
No, you're not listening, Ian. It's not. The whole point is that these debates are just a casual hangout. It's not like some proper sciencey stuff. If I wanted that, then
why wouldn't you
Because no, Ian, let me finish.
Why wouldn't you do that?
If
this is for entertainment, then I don't.
Ian, let me finish. Now, these things, they're just like normal hangouts. They're like just chats. They're discussions about stuff. If it was going to be some serious essay where you got to have citations and proper data surveys and actual figures and stuff, then by all means we would bring stuff. But it's not. Listening to yourself,
but the thing is, you can't
Ian, let me finish.
I'm making a point about this.
Oh, yes, but let me finish first. Ian, make your point afterwards. I'm not going to ask if you next time I have to ask you, right? I'm going to just end this because I'm getting a bit fed up of this, to be honest.
Okay.
Now, if this was a proper university thing or some educational academic thing where you had to have citations and you had to have proper sources and stuff, then yeah, obviously it would be good. You'd expect people to have sources for their claims. But this has been like a casual sort of, well, it's meant to be casual, like just a Google Hangout. It's not some educational like academic thing. It's two people speaking about their ideas. And for you to just like say, oh, where are your figures, and then not provide any yourself, like, and
Okay,
then, oh
then I
yeah,
will be
I'll
happy to
Google it.
provide figures.
That's not the point, is it? It's like,
Oh, that is the point.
it's not,
Because that's my point.
So you're going to
If
provide
your
sources for everything you said prior about everything else.
No, I'm going to provide sources for things that are important.
No, oh, so the things you were saying earlier weren't important
If you want a source, I will give you a source.
for every single.
And if you
thing
don't want a
said,
source,
for every single
then I
thing
won't
you
give
said,
you a source.
for every single thing you said.
Yes, if you want a source, I will provide you a source, because every single fucking thing I said was based on looking at data.
Do you not think that some of your data is firstly wrong and secondly somewhat misleading? Like, again, you could argue, the economy of the UK.
It's better than nothing.
Well, if it's incorrect data, then it's nothing in itself, isn't it? It's a lie.
Well, how would you determine that?
So
Are you a social scientist? What?
For instance, if you look at the GDP of the UK, like I said earlier, it's increased, and the Conservatives use this as an argument to say, "Oh, we're doing a good job. Our managing of the economy is good." But then you actually look at like poverty; it's going up. 14 million people in the UK are in poverty.
What's the median income adjusted for inflation for your country?
Because
that's the actual argument. Because you're naive about the economy because you think GDP fucking matters to the average income.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. You didn't listen.
Yes, obviously, if you know anything about the economics, that it doesn't apply.
Said yes, exactly. So that's an argument used to support.
Okay, yes, I don't support that argument because it's a shitty argument. What you do is you look
at everything else you've said is rubbish.
No,
the stuff about capitalism.
No, I'm saying no. Do you know what OECD is? Do you know who they are?
Do you know who what are, sorry?
The OECD.
Do you tell?
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Do you not know these people?
I'm aware of them. I'm asking you what the relevance is.
Okay, so they create metrics that measure quality of life, freedom, various things across countries, GDP, income per capita. No, it's still important. It's just not important for what. No, I said it's not important for the overall economic situation of first world countries.
Not what you said.
Determining the normal person. But yes, it does matter. Sorry that the actual economic situation of numbers depends on contexts. Like if I look at the Gini of a country like Africa, for example, where they have a really shitty Gini because they have actually higher inequality than in America, it doesn't matter because Gini is a number that determines the quality within a system and the economic inequality within a system. It doesn't compare it to, let's say, America or likewise. You have to look at numbers based on the context of the situation. So when I say the Gini of the world, that means the relative income inequality of the entire world. So that means if you look at the Gini, so Gini goes from 0 to 1. 1 means that one person has all the money. 0 means that everyone is equal. If the Gini of the whole world goes down, so it's like 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, or I mean 0.2, yeah. When it goes down, that means income inequality is decreasing. That is happening across the world. Is it happening in the West? No, it's not. If you look at Sweden, it's going up. If you look at UK, it's going up. If you look at America, it's going up. You have to look at the context. So when you say something that is verifiably false by the data, where inequality is increasing, that is false on a world stage. Is it true for your country? Yes, it's true for your country. That was my point. And that's because the world is rising out of poverty. And there's ways to measure poverty. There's relative poverty and absolute poverty. Relative poverty means I make $1 million and you make $100,000. I'm 10 times more expensive than you, right? But absolute poverty means I make $100,000. I'm still rich because I have $100,000. The poor people in our countries are rich by world standards and by historical standards. To be in the top 2% of the world, all you have to make is $36,000 a year. That's all you have to make. That's like a fucking That's not even middle class in my country. To be the top 2% of the world. Now, we're massively richer than somebody in, like, let's say, Taiwan, but we're still rich by world standards. Like, you're rich. It doesn't seem like that, but by world standards, you're probably in the top 3%. Like, you're like
that doesn't equate to success, but that doesn't mean that
no. That means that your life is good because like think about it like this: because your economy and your country is so successful that even the most poor people can have electricity, house, food, and all that stuff.
But that,
like, you why are you so dismissive of that? So many countries don't have that.
Yeah, so they don't have that because of capitalism, and people who
prove
are
it
in this country prove it.
No. You're presuming that it's because of capitalism. There's a presumption. One second. There's a presumption here, because you're presuming that without capitalism they would have it, but it wasn't like that for the majority of human history. So nobody had anything. No, why is it for 10? Okay, answer this question. Why is it for 10,000 years? Actually, let's go even further. Modern humans have existed for 200,000 years. The agricultural revolution happened 10,000 years. Why is it that in the last 200 years, life has improved so much?
Science has improved.
Okay.
Subsequently, the worker sort of class consciousness and stuff, and like the ideas, as humanity has got smarter, people have begun to fight for their rights and stuff, and fight for their status as human beings. And to attribute this to capitalism,
I contribute this to extreme productivity.
Ian, you asked me a question. Let me answer. Capitalism itself, like, it has not improved life. It's not. You can't say that the idea of profiting off people, profiting off commodities, has improved people's life. No, it's been actual innovations independent of the system. And you could see that it's worker solidarity and improvement. So, for instance, workers being paid at all, like being paid a livable wage, that is because of workers, not because of capitalism.
Yes, it is. Because... You couldn't define livable wage.
Workers.
Actually, think about it. Think about it like this. What is a livable wage in the 1700s? No. Like, answer the question. What is a livable wage in the 1700s?
Right, we stick to the focus.
Can we stick to like what my point? Because you keep saying that the rise of capitalism and technology have nothing to do with each other. You're saying that they have nothing to do with each other, but you can point.
Technology rose in spite of capitalism, not because of capitalism. And I'm saying that with a better system like communism or socialism or a far left sort of ideology, technology, science, the arts, they would have all improved and gone further. I mean, you look at the way things are today, and there's massive inequality in the West, and elsewhere in the world there's exploitation of workers.
Why does inequality matter if everyone's doing better?
But no, doing better, but that's still suffering. Like, you can still be suffering, but doing better than your ancestors centuries ago.
Why is equality going to reduce suffering? No. It's like an actual question. Why would you do you have like sociological and psychological data that proves that total equality will lead to a happier, greater life?
If everyone has the same wealth, if you don't have a system where you have to pay your way into surviving, if you have to sell your labor hours, your labor hours to survive, a system where everyone owns the produce of their own labor, and you no longer see the capitalist system of exploiting people by profiting off their labor, yes, people would be happier. Where there's more wealth equality, people are happier. And where capitalism, if you saw a system where capitalism
I'm not saying completely flat. I'm talking about completely flat, not just equality.
Hold on, Ian. Hold on. If you're talking about the way people are, the fact that so many, like, you look at our generation now, people are miserable. The world is a miserable place because of the way capitalism has essentially ruined the planet. We're seeing environmental destruction. We're seeing a rising far right. We're seeing increasing wealth inequality. If you go to the rest of the world, you're seeing corporations exploiting their workers even more. Like, you look at the situation in Southeast Asia, like I've mentioned, and subsequently, it's a dismal situation. Like, Apple make their profit by, and Amazon and all the other corporations They exploit their workers immensely to where the point where they don't have any workers' rights. They don't have a substantial wage. They're trapped within the jobs they have. It's a disgrace.
But the thing before
and-
that was worse.
No, but that doesn't mean that capitalism is good. You can't just say like if you
but the thing is, communism doesn't solve that problem.
Of course it does. Let me finish though. Let me finish, Ian. If you break your leg, that's bad. If you fracture your ankle, that's also bad. But then you wouldn't say, oh well, you haven't broken your leg, so that's actually good. Just because something is better than it was before doesn't mean it's like
it's the best it's ever been.
But that's not because of capitalism. That's not because of the economic system we have. You know,
what is it? We are currently in this economic system, so everything in this economic system can be contributed to it. Every single thing, because you admit that we're not in a socialist system. You admit that we're not in a communistic system. The entire country, governments are run off of companies that are for profit.
That's abysmal. Have you seen what is happening to the world because of that?
Yes, I've seen what's happening to the world. By every single fucking quantifiable standard, the world is better now than it has ever been.
So even though the environment is being destroyed, you're saying,
no. I don't care about that argument.
You don't care about the environment. You don't care about the environment.
You don't care about the environment because you've never looked at any of the fucking data.
No. You don't care that corporations are pouring gunk and rubbish into the seas because they can make more profit. You don't care that the skies are being filled with like toxic gases because of capitalism and the need for more profit. You don't care.
Do you remember what happened 250 million years ago?
So do you not think global warming is a problem?
I think global warming is a problem. I just actually have looked at the data and looked at the meta-analysis.
The data.
Yeah. Do you know what meta-analysis is?
No, answer what
meta-analysis is.
Answer what I was saying. Capitalism is ruining like the planet because of global warming. Global warming is being enabled. It's
not global warming, it's global climate change.
Okay, fine. Climate change, whatever you want to call it. The environment is being destroyed because of our need for more profit. Do you not see that?
So who has been negatively impacted?
Are you serious?
Have you been negatively impacted by the environment getting hurt?
Yes.
When?
Well, I mean, in 20 years,
things
are going to be...
Specific moment.
Oh my God!
No. See, you're making claims that no. When you say the world, when you say the plant, when I'm literally asking you to back up a claim, you go, "Oh, I have to back up a claim."
That's not what happens, though. You don't.
Okay.
You do not.
Your life is fucking fantastic compared to what it could be. And then you're saying that because
that's not a claim, and that's not a claim. Are you ridiculous? Like
no.
Let's focus on climate change, Ian. Let's focus on that because that.
Okay, cool. Let me show you the meta-analysis of total carbon emissions over time with various studies that show that the carbon emission.
I'm asking you a direct question. Do you think global warming is a problem that is going to be affecting the world? Do you think climate change?
It's solvable, and it's going to be solved.
Not by capitalism.
Yes, it is.
Corporations.
Oh my God! You okay? How do you know? What's the cost? Okay. See, capitalists want to save money. Okay, so I'm gonna show some truth bombs since you don't know anything about this. Okay, what's the cost per watt of oil to produce electricity compared to the cost per watt of fucking solar right now? They're about the same. See, the thing is when things become cheaper, like essentially, since you don't actually understand what money is, because here's what happens. Money is a product of people producing.
No, before you go on another 20-minute ramble.
No, it's really simple.
No, it's not what you said that earlier, and it wasn't.
You don't know what money is because
that's a claim. It's nonsense. Yada yada yada. Focus on what we're talking about. Don't go on to a massive tangent.
Solar is cheaper than it's going to be cheaper than oil, and it's provable.
Hold on. Global warming is affecting the planet right now. You know, our current system, where we're profiting off the natural resources of the earth, that's ruining the planet. That is because.
How are you going to not use the natural resources of the earth?
Well, you can find other ways of doing it. Exactly.
How?
We're seeing. Hold on. We're seeing capitalism not give a damn about the environment because they'd rather profit off oil and using forest land and mowing it all down for their farms and essentially destroying vast quantities of land and environment and not caring about the amount they're wasting. And in turn, obviously, like destroying land. Like you're seeing already in American shops and other like areas, and shops in general, lots of food produce is going like down because it's being wasted, and because they're unable to make as much because of climate change. You're seeing
What?
the ice caps melting, and obviously
The
sea
price
levels
of
going
food
up.
is the price of food
Hold
is
on,
cheap.
Ian. Like you know what? I said what would happen if you interrupted me again. We're done.
Okay.
This is a joke. Like you
just said the price of food went up and it's down. It's fucking verifiable.
in
Price
the
of
West,
commodities are cheaper.
it's going up, and lots of
Oh,
people,
really?
lots of
Really?
people can't have food to eat.
Price of commodities.
We're done. Like that was a shambles, Ian. Like you need to learn how to not interrupt the people you're speaking to, and you need to also to be a bit calmer, to be honest, because you know.
Food price index.
Are you even listening to what I'm saying, Ian?
I'm listening to you, and you say things that aren't true, and I say that you're wrong, and you don't care. You don't give a fuck. You don't give a fuck that you're lying.
Vice versa, Ian. Anyway, we're done. Say goodbye, Ian.
Bye.
Now, are you gonna hang up?
I thought you were gonna do that.
No, the podcast is going on. I'm gonna wrap up, but I'm done having like. It's being told, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, and then like having yourself interrupted and stuff.
Oh, hey, look, the food prices have been continually going down. The prices of sugar has gone down. The price of meat has gone down. The price of cereal has gone down. The price of dairy has gone down. The price of vegetable oils have gone down. Let's see what else.
What's this in, like the globe or?
Yeah, the globe. Yeah, so it's cheaper for the people in Africa, so they don't starve to death.
But it's not, is it?
You don't care about, because if we destroy the environment by using it for farming, it doesn't matter.
What are you on about? Oh, we're done. Adios. Christ alive. Right, we're done. Enough of this. Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. If we're done, if you just like, if people just want to like speak over me, then you know, it's not gonna work. And also, like when you speak for such a long period of time, and then like, you know, start interrupting again and again, it's just a shambles, isn't it? Like, anyway, I'm done. Thanks everyone for listening. I can't say it's been a pleasure. It's been a bit of a train wreck, to be honest. Night.